Aloha, movie nerds, dorks, and weirdos. Welcome to New Movie Tuesdays. I'm your host, Matthew Salanoa, and I'm broke as a joke. It's $5 half off Tuesday at my local theater, and I spent that $5. Somehow it ended up being $25 because of food, but oh well. It was worth it. It was worth every penny because I had the pleasure of watching The Smashing Machine, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as real life person Mark Kerr, Emily Blunt as his girlfriend Dawn, and Ryan Bader, who plays his trainer and best friend Mark Coleman. The Smashing Machine is directed by Benny Safdie, who previously directed Uncut Gems. He wrote and directed both movies. I never reviewed Uncut Gems. I always meant to. It, Uncut Gems was such an incredible experience that I had no words for it to give a review to. But I'll say this, like, anyone who's looking forward to seeing the Smashing Machine, please go see it right now. It is more of a drama than a wrestling movie. I'll just let you know if you haven't seen it, or if you've seen the trailer, you don't know, hey, what am I getting into if I go see this? This is a mostly a relationship drama about a man who's very focused on his work. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson really disappears into this role for me right up front. One of my favorite things he says is my tummy will hurt. Like, he's just got this kind of friendly, very nice guy quality, and yet, he's a hard worker. He's committed to his dream. He loves his girlfriend. She loves him back. It's a very sweet story when it begins, and it never gets to, Requiem for a Dream levels of drama. But I do think it's a very good movie. Not a lot of wrestling in this movie, not a lot of fighting. It's primarily a drama. I don't want to call it basic, but I think it's a simple story. It's a very simple story, but I think it's told very well. And I'm mostly just taken away the whole time by the performances and this kind of slice of life of this guy. The movie states it takes place between the years of 1997 to 2000, very specific timeline, and you're watching him deal with himself and deal with the consequences of living a life that's hyper focused and hyper committed to a dream, and how that affects the people around him, and how the way they're affected affects him back. And I think it's just a very solid drama. Talking about Uncut Gems, I really was, that to me was the Requiem for a Dream level when we get to that ending. But if I had to compare the two, I think Uncut Gems is like the dark, gritty, almost hopeless story of a man addicted to gambling. And I would say this is the opposite. This movie's so light, and it's so, I wouldn't call it fluffy, but it's so light, and it's just got such a high spirit about it that by the end of the movie I left very happy, and I left very elevated and motivated to do good and do better in my life. And I just really love that spirit that Mark Kerr has throughout this entire movie. And I think The Rock really plays his journey very well. Again, I don't have any knowledge. I'm not a sports guy, but I will say, backing up a little bit, my family loved sports growing up. I was the weird, nerdy, dorko goofball who just loved his Saturday morning cartoons and playing Grand Theft Auto on the PlayStation 2. Okay, so that was me. I was an indoor kid, an indoor cat, always. And but I love superheroes. I didn't need sports because I'm like, I like stories where people can lift cars with a single hand. That's cool to me. I'm a little kid. But I would say I am Samoan and Hawaiian. I mean, obviously I'm other things too. But I am Samoan and Hawaiian, and it was always a big deal when The Rock showed up. So whenever The Rock showed up, it was like, Matt, come over here. It's The Rock. I'm like, oh, The Rock, because he's Samoan too. and he kind of looks like one of my uncles. Especially in his younger days, whenever he would walk around, people would just stop and go, "Are you the Rock? Are you the Rock? Are you Rocky Maivia?" And my uncle would just do the eyebrow, and people would freak out. I think he may have signed some autographs, but I don't know. But either way, he wasn't walking around as an impersonator. He's just, again, my family, we're Samoan and Hawaiian, and I'm one of the paler ones. But if that should tell you anything, that's how much The Rock was involved in my life. Hence, why today I have the holy trinity of cinematic rock characters. We have, of course, in the front, Black Adam Rock. Awful movie. Awesome Rock. The Rock was great as Black Adam. Terrible film. Wonderful cast. Terrible movie. This one really doesn't count because he's not actually in any movie. Ghostbuster Rock. Yeah, you guys really messed up with Afterlife and Frozen Empire, and dare I say, you really messed up with that remake with all the chicks. Again, wonderful casts, terrible movies. Ghostbuster Rock. That was a toy 2 years before the Frozen Empire came out. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you, Sony? Make that toy real, bro. And finally, Scorpion King Rock. Okay? The cinematic holy trinity of The Rock is here to join me for this review. Yes, I love toys. I still have toys. Does it make me not a man? Some of you may say yes. Anyway, so the movie's really good. I really feel The Rock just disappears into this role. To see him in this movie right from minute one, you can't help but realize he's The Rock because he's obviously The Rock, but whatever prosthetic they do on his nose and his voice and affectation, I was just blown away by, how incredible that was. So salute to The Rock for really disappearing into this role. And even when he gets angry, there's just like, it feels like a person that's not Dwayne The Rock Johnson. It's like, this is Mark Kerr. And it's not like an overly macho anger. It's like, it's an understandable anger of a person who's so well intended and so nice, I just got to give, hats off to The Rock. Emily Blunt, I thought was amazing ever since Devil Wears Prada, where she comes off so steely at first, and at the end of that movie you realize she's just another girl with dreams who has not yet had her foot in the door where she wants it. And she is never disappointed as an actress, and I love that we can have her be someone who's so badass, like the Angel of Verdun, and she's willing to come back and just be the supportive girlfriend. But of course, if you're casting Emily Blunt, she's not just a supportive girlfriend. Most of this movie, for those of you who are looking for a wrestling movie, that's not really what this is. This movie is much more about the personal relationships. The whole movie is really a personal drama where he's learning to navigate, okay, I have this opiate addiction, I'm doing this, I gotta work on these things. Also, my girlfriend, not a perfect person either. I gotta figure out what she needs. But also, if I have this dream, I still have to do what I gotta do. Coming from him, which was such an intense movie, like I feel like that's way more sports oriented, although we never actually see a real game. Coming from that, which was intense and dark and about the sort of dark nature of entertainment, I really appreciated this movie being very light and being very much more of what I'm in agreement with in terms of life philosophy, which is you're the one that determines the quality of your life. This movie is today's Rocky. I think, Rocky's a fictional character, great script, really great movie. This movie, I think, is a really good movie that feels very real, and I feel like I'm there. I would also say what the movie left me with, like I said, it's the opposite of Uncut Gems. It left me elevated. It left me positive. It left me wanting to take care of myself and figure out myself, because I just watched a whole movie where somebody else just did that in the best way possible. And it's a beautiful movie. I do think it's a touching movie. It's just there's not a lot of wrestling. So if that's what you were looking for, I'm sorry to say you're not going to get much of it. But what wrestling we do get's very good. I think all the best fights are really in the first half of the movie. We don't spend a lot of time in the fights, and it's fine, because that's the movie tells you right from the beginning that's not what this is about. It's about the person who does the fights, and that's perfectly fine with me. So, that being said, I highly recommend the movie. If you are someone who's interested in seeing the movie, just go see it. I've never been someone who really cares about reviews, which is ironic because that's what I'm doing here. But what I would say is, like, look, if you're interested in seeing the movie, just go see the movie. I came to this movie for two reasons. One, the trailer looked good. If it's a good trailer, and if it's got me, it's got me. And two, The Rock. The Rock really looked. It seemed like he was doing something very special. And by movie's end, I feel like he did. I really feel like I did. I can't spoil it, but when we reached his final scene in the movie, I was like, damn, this guy, you did something special. So before I finish my spoiler free, let's do the worth the price of admission moments. I gotta tell you, Emily Blunt by herself, especially in the first half an hour, every single scene is worth the price of admission. She's the girl you want to be with if you're single. I'm single. The way she interacts with The Rock, it's so sweet, and it just gets you in there. Emily Blunt, she's always top notch in every movie. I love her scene it's already in the trailer, but when you have the context of the movie, the scene where she's getting in the UFO whirly machine at the the carnival, wherever she is, and she's just by herself, and you don't see the other people, but you see her pointing and seeing other people and laughing and literally spinning around upside down, and she's just having a great time in the context of the moment, because I can't say what preceded it. It's such a beautiful moment, and what it means for the entire movie, especially the final scene of the movie, it's so poignant and important. Literally, she says before she gets in, it's about perspective. And she never says outright what that perspective is, but just that that's what it's about. But that moment is so beautiful. Like, she becomes such a signature character to me, as like, oh, like, she sees the world in a particular way, and he sees the world in a particular way. With The Rock, a signature moment is this interview with someone who's saying, well, how are you going to deal with fighting this new fighter? And The Rock, Mark Kerr, says, well, it's going to be like a flashlight versus a laser. And they're like, what does that mean? He says, well, I have to be absolutely focused on what I'm going to do. And it's such a good scene that says everything about how he sees everything and how he's approaching his life, which is what the whole movie's about. But these are such great moments that then lead to the worth the price of admission, which is the fight that he's getting ready for, that he's talking about. And I think the fights of the first, yeah, I'd say the first half of the movie, the fights are all worth the price of admission by themselves. They're interesting to watch. Not incredibly exciting, but it's more like the context I think this movie puts everything in context. Everything is in context for what else is going on in the movie. It really does feel, the whole movie as a whole, it feels like a slice of life where we are just sort of stepping in and viewing a few private moments of a person's life. And I want to shout out to Benny Safdie and cinematographer, I hope I'm saying your name right, Maceo Bishop. Hats off to both you guys, because I just feel like when I was watching the movie, I like the look of the movie looks like 90s video, but a little bit cleaner. It looks, and hats off to hair and makeup department, the way everyone's dressed, costumes, the soundtrack, the music of the time, the Sublime is playing in the beginning of the movie. This movie feels like a slice of the 90s. I think the whole movie is worth the price of admission. As someone who grew up in the 90s, I'm like, this is what the 90s felt like. This is how people dressed. This is how people acted. This was their philosophy. The 90s was exactly, at least as far as I saw it, it was exactly this mixture of positive encouragement of following your dreams and do what you want to do, but it was also remember to have a good time too. It was like, anything you can do, I can do better. But also, let's rage, let's party. But rage for us is actually joy. Rage meant something totally different back then. And I feel like The Rock is the laser focused, positive, I can do anything, I can achieve my dreams. And Emily Blunt's Dawn is, let's have fun. And you see how that is a problem for both of them, because that's what matters to both of them, and yet they're together, opposites attract. And that's what the whole movie's about, is that the back and forth between these two. I think it's a beautiful movie. I think it's a really beautiful film. I'm really glad I saw it. Hats off to The Rock for just disappearing into this role. Again, my tummy, it doesn't work for my tummy. Like, it's just so sweet and cute. I'm like, it's funny how we're in this age now where people are talking about acceptance, and it seems like the social attitude is going in a certain direction. And yet, ironically, it hasn't really. Like, people still kind of have the macho man attitude toward things they don't like, or toward themselves and all this stuff. And what I think is beautiful is, here's this movie about the 90s, really, about the 90s attitude, about a guy who, he kind of like Mike Tyson is now, a guy who just has this very sweet personality. He doesn't seem like he could hurt a fly, and yet he could totally destroy anybody he comes across if he really wants to. But that's not who he is. He just wants to win and be successful in what he loves to do. But how he is as a person is totally sweet. He has a sublime attitude toward life. And I think that's a beautiful representation of, how you can be in this world. You can fight the good fight, but you can also just have a good attitude about it as well, which is difficult for most people to do, but that's just who this person is. This is what's in his character. And yeah, I loved it. So if you saw this movie, what'd you get out of it? So please let me know in the comments, and especially if you were of the time, how you relate the movie to your experience. So I would love to hear those in the comments. And that's it. That's my spoiler-free review. See you next time for the spoilers. Thank you for watching. Mahalo and aloha, all you movie nerds, dorks, and weirdos.